Good morning, everyone. See if this works. Turn it off again. There we go. Okay. How are you guys doing? Good? Oh, you guys are still here. The kids are still here. This wasn't supposed to be for kids, but it's okay. Don't worry. It might apply to you too. Yeah, today I wanted to talk about the importance of witnessing. And my definition of witnessing, it basically means to share and talk about your faith to others through your actions and how you speak as well. And yeah, I thought it was nice to kind of give this kind of topic because I think True Mother says emphasize a lot, and also Reverend Dunkley too about witnessing and the importance behind it. And yeah, I hear this word like a billion times in my life, so maybe it's important for me. So, yeah, that's why I wanted to talk about this, and I couldn't think of any other ideas, so this was the only one that came up. So, yeah, I think a lot of people have different concepts about witnessing, and there might be concepts and also some fears as well. Um, this was my concept. Not forcing people, but maybe like converting people was something that I thought like witnessing was. Like basically like inviting, making force, maybe like even forcing them to come or like study principle or whatever. Um, and also um, maybe they had some experience with people who are very forceful or very aggressive. Um, yeah, and also I think it's also kind of similar to how sometimes, you know, some parents they might force their kids to come to certain things or stuff like that. Like, oh, come to church every Sunday, or oh, come to the choir concert every Sunday. You have to. You have no choice. Some people have that kind of concept when it comes to like witnessing. Um, and then also, people have a lot of fear when it comes to witnessing too. I have a lot of these fears too, even right now as well. Um, yeah, sometimes people feel like no confidence, fear of rejections, or maybe losing your close friends once you share like principle or your like your faith or something. Like it might be like when you share it, like you might think they might think differently of you now, and then you might lose your close friends. Um, you don't know how to explain it, or worry what others think. All these things. But does anyone relate with this? Like these fears? Like you can raise your hand if you want. Oh, great. That's like 99% of people. Whoever didn't raise their hands, they're probably lying. So everyone feels this kind of things. But yeah, but I kind of wanted to kind of put that out there because everybody feels the same, and me too. Um, but um, yeah, but anyways, um, so I kind of wanted to share like what is witnessing in my own perspective because I think most of these things that I will share today will mostly be about like I guess what I've learned through witnessing and yeah, because I don't know if I'm qualified to tell you to do this or that. So this is from my own perspective. But I kind of wanted to do like a pair share or like a trio share of like what is witnessing to you and how did you experience it. Um, so yeah, I'll give you a couple minutes. You can turn to the person next to you or somebody. Witnessing doesn't have to be like, oh, I shared principle with people, or it can be so simple as like sharing principle to your family or things like that. So, yeah. So you can do a pair share for a couple minutes. Okay, you can start wrapping up. Okay, thank you for taking the time to share. Um, I wanted to get some volunteers. You can just shout it out, but like, I guess, what is witnessing to you? You can shout out your answers or raise your hand too if you want. Grow God. I like that answer. Anybody else? What is witnessing to you? Bring people closer. Who said that? Oh, yes. Thank you. Yes, that is true. Anybody else? Yes. Yes. I agree too. You guys are all correct. Congratulations. Give yourselves a round of applause. So, yeah, I think all these answers that you shared, or whatever you shared in your pair, was probably a right answer. And yeah, so I think for myself, what witnessing is basically sharing your faith, and it can be through like words or actions, um, and basically whatever you guys share is probably on here. But witnessing is basically to help others like come closer to God, and it can be like in any form, because in any way you can help others come closer to God, whether it's through your love or your words. Sometimes it can even be through food, inviting them to your house, all these things, because ultimately you are like a mediator for God and channel for God, because you understand principle, you understand like the words that you feel like yourself, and like natural. It's kind of natural in a sense of when you're with that person, you kind of like naturally give them love, because you just people can kind of feel it anyways. Um, yeah, and it's basically when it comes to witnessing, it's not out of obligation where people feel uncomfortable or like feel like, oh, I feel like I'm being forced to do something right now. But it's more of like they're willing to come closer to God. Like when they feel like your love through serving, and also maybe through even words. Um, they can really feel like, like this place is kind of feels better than how I am living right now. So maybe I want to come closer to this group or this person. Um, you're willing to kind of, or that person is willing to naturally submit to kind of God's love through you. And um, I think also, kind of like what you said, it was with Grow God. I think this also applies too. Like as you're helping others understand God, you're also understanding. You yourself is also understanding God's love for yourself deeper, and also true parents too. And ultimately, like witnessing is kind of like a Cain and Abel relationship, where you kind of stand in like that Abel position, where you are kind of like that older sibling trying to um, bring the people together, basically. And because you're all naturally like a channel of God or a mediator of God, um, you kind of bring them naturally to you. And when you bring them to you, you naturally bring them to God. So it's a foundation of substance. Um, and I think this is a great quote by True Father, but basically explains what is witnessing. Witnessing is inducing to people to leave the satanic world with a smile and follow with the heavenly path. You have to understand this. Do you understand? When I look at the way you do witnessing, you force people to come, completely disregarding whether or not the person likes it. But this is not right. Man is a spiritual being, so pray for that person and see what happens. Do an experiment. Try to give your utmost love for a person and cry with painful heart in order to raise him and persuade him to follow the path of dispensation. Um, yeah, I think when I was doing witnessing a couple of years ago, last year, no, 2 years ago, and then the years before that, I think this quote was something that really stuck out to me when I was going out witnessing. Um, yeah, I think I'll explain more about my story later, but I think this kind of wraps up like what witnessing is basically. Um, so yeah, but I think this is the more important part. Um, I know it's important for other people, but I want to also do another discussion question. But why is it important to yourself? Why is witnessing important to you? Because if you think of witnessing as bringing other people, it can be easily discouraging. So I would like to do another discussion. So you can go back to your pair or go to another person and kind of share about this question. Okay. I hope that was a good sharing. Thank you for talking, everybody. Um, I would like to hear some answers again. Um, Shout out some answers of why this is important to you. Because this is the real stuff that I'm going to be talking about. You can just shout it out or raise your hand.
Hello.
Hi.
Yeah, it's important to me to witness, to come into deeper harmony with God's heart, to understand better parental heart, and specifically God's parental heart. Also, because it's kind of the last day of the last days, it's um, yeah, God needs us to witness. And because I know true parents, it's my duty to witness, but also it's my deep joy also. Yeah, having give and take centered on God gives us a lot of joy.
Thank you. Go, share.
Release of God and myself spiritual growth.
Uh, um, I don't know why the mic is being passed around. Um, but thank you for passing it around. Does anyone else want to share?
For doing witnessing. For do witnessing.
Yeah, why is it important to you? Because the one student I met, he shared that his heart, he is suffering as a young person, and also he's many of the young people are suffering. So once I heard that, that really triggered me. I want to reach out the many young people who is actually suffering. They don't look like a suffering, but they are suffering. So we really need to reach out to them.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Can I answer that too?
Yes.
I am witnessing to please God, and I'm witnessing for the future of the country and the world, especially for students and young people. That's my intention why I'm doing witnessing.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you for sharing, everybody. Those were good answers. I feel like I don't have to give this talk anymore because whatever you guys said is probably on here. But I think getting different perspectives of different reasons why people witness is really nice, and maybe it's something you can also put into your own reasoning of witnessing too. So yeah, and then yeah, so why do I need to share my faith? Why is it important to me? This is more specifically talking about yourself instead of just like why is it important to the people or God. I think people have a good understanding of why it should be important for that, but I think I would like to kind of share about why it's important for yourself to kind of share your faith, because you're sharing but not really. It seems like it's not like you're growing yourself, but you're kind of sharing what you know. But actually, through sharing your faith, you actually learn a lot about yourself. So, what it means to share about my faith is to basically express who you are and where you come from. And I think that is kind of like sharing a hobby in a sense, or sharing your passion, because creating a lifestyle of witnessing is creating a life of like joy, because basically kind of what you said about like it's because you know true parents, because you know some principle, and this is something that really impacted your life, you naturally want to share it with other people because you've been impacted by it so deeply. And so yeah, it's kind of like sharing your own hobby. Like you have a talent that you have within yourself, whether it's crocheting or singing or playing video games, or no, maybe not playing video games, but a passion of some sort, wood crafting, whatever. You kind of want to share that with other people. That's why a lot of people have concerts. That's why a lot of people have restaurants, because they want to show their cooking to other people, or and also make money too, but mainly to share their own talent. It's kind of like a give and receive relationship. Because you've been loved or you've been receiving so much talent within yourself, you naturally want to share it with other people. And I think that's why it's important to share your faith, because in order to kind of in order to be like truly happy within yourself, you kind of have to share what you have, or else it will be hard to kind of be able to contain your own talent and not share it with people. I think it's very, very constricting, and you feel trapped. So when you feel it, you want to share it. So yeah, I think the love that you felt from this movement or the principal or even True Parents, it was impacted by you really deeply. And I feel like when you keep it to yourself, it's like literally impossible to do that, because that will make you very sad actually, if you can't share it. But you naturally share it with others. It's basically the same heart that God has for people and children in general, where like he has this heart to share, but he can't because he is invisible. No one can see him. I can't see him, hear him, taste him, smell him. I can't do any of that. So it's very hard for God to kind of be able to give love as a parental being. So I think for us to be able to share that kind of love, I think it's the same heart that he has. So it's very natural to share it with other people. And I think that's the joy that God would want to have in general. And yeah, I think through sharing your faith and expressing your faith, I think that is the point where you feel like true joy within yourself, ultimately. I feel like that's what I've experienced these past couple years. And I think even now too, like I know I'm kind of busy, and work and stuff. But sometimes it's hard to not go out witnessing, or like every time I try to sleep, I can't because I'm thinking about like uh, carp or witnessing, or like kind of like thinking of like, I could be going out and giving love to people, but I'm here sleeping, and I can't. But it's hard to sleep because I'm thinking about this all the time. So I think for myself, it's like kind of like through sharing faith, I think it gives a lot of joy. And I know there's a lot of challenges behind that because I know in schools it's very hard to do that because you're the only group. Basically, you might be the only person that might be in the faith, or not a lot of young people today are in faith in general. So it might be hard for you to kind of share your faith. But it doesn't have to be through words, but it can be also through love. And I think when people reciprocate that love, that's when you feel even more joy too. So I think that's the reasons why. I think another part of it, I think this is the main reason why I like to witness or share my faith, is because um, it's basically to mature ourselves. I think that's the one most important reason why I like to share my faith, is because it's to mature ourselves. And so, kind of like as you kind of share your faith with other people, as you go out witnessing with uh, you kind of discover your flaws and strengths. Because I've learned a lot about like knowing how to love people, or like when to be patient, or how to be patient. I learned a lot of challenges within myself throughout the past couple of years, and strengths, because I was taking care of another person, or trying to love another person, even inside the carp house too. I think that was the hardest time to love people, to be honest. Um, and so I think through sharing your faith, you kind of naturally give love at the same time. But then you, instead of putting that in concept, you put it in reality of how you love people. So you kind of see like how you love people. But then sometimes when your challenges face, that's when you know like, oh shoot, I can't love this guy because I'm not patient enough. Maybe I should work on that. And you start to discover and be more aware within yourself too. Um, and so, yeah, basically, witnessing is you grow your heart to love people, and you expand your capacity to love in general. And I think an important aspect is, without witnessing, I think it will be very difficult to grow yourself as a person. Whether it's your character, or your faith, or your capacity to love. I think in general, I think without sharing your faith, it will be really hard to grow within yourself. Um, yeah, and so, yeah, I think many people have, like, many young people, and I think people in society have this mindset of blaming the society, of like, I can't do this because the society is like this, or I have no money because the government sucks, or um, uh, president's stuff. I don't go deep into that, but yeah, a lot of people blame stuff for society, and I think that's the worst way to blame things, because nothing grows through that kind of mindset. I think through being able to share your faith, I think you become more aware of yourself, and you become more focused on what you want to do, instead of blaming what others can do for you. Because ultimately, the only thing you can change is yourself. And I think if you have a change of heart through witnessing and changing all your concepts and stuff, and being able to share and gain this conviction, I think naturally you become more aware of yourself and see what you can do to impact others. Because I think a lot of people, like influential people like Martin Luther King, Gandhi, all those people, like they made a change because they changed themselves first. And then they were able to impact the society through their own influence and their change in themselves first. So I think, yeah, I think kind of being able to switch the mindset of witnessing to, you know, sharing principle because they need to know it too, but also you need to know principle too as you share principle. Because actually, as I studied principle these past couple years, I feel like I'm always learning new things about principle. It's like unlimited knowledge of principle in life. And I think as I go through, I learn more as I experienced through sharing and witnessing. So I think being able to do that constantly helped me understand more and more about principle. And then I think also through maturing yourself, you'll have a deeper relationship with God. Because I think my concept of God changed over time because I think I was through studying principle and sharing my faith. That's where I come to realize substantially of how God works through my life personally. So, yeah, I think hopefully witnessing is to mature ourselves as people, and yeah, I think that's the number one reason why witnessing is important. Um, because when you focus on yourself and when you change yourself, um, you'll naturally build your relationship with God, but also you'll naturally have a bigger heart to love other people in general. So, yeah. So I think personally experiencing, I've been to a couple countries. I think I shared this a couple times before, but as a when I graduated GPA as a second year, I went to um, Czech Republic, um, and then as a Chanoguk missionary, and then also I went to Peru the third year as a Chanoguk missionary, and then after my third year, I went to CARP for 2 years in Maryland, um, and basically, I think during that time, I was basically witnessing for 4 years by that point, and I don't know why it didn't stop, and I don't know why because I didn't. I knew in the beginning I didn't like witnessing, so I don't know why I kept going. Maybe because I was on the program, so I couldn't leave anyways, and I was stuck in a country, so I couldn't really leave anyways. Um, and fun fact, this was during COVID, uh, my third year of GPA, so all the airports were closed, so we couldn't leave anyways. So what did I do? A lot of different things there, and it was still fun. Um, but anyways, I think just a little bit of background. Yeah, I've been witnessing for 4 years during that time period, and I feel like yeah, I think my concept of witnessing before I joined was basically whatever was on that concept and fears page of like, it was forcing people to come, it was converting people, and like, I think people who witness are very aggressive people, and I've learned through stories of many, many first gens that it looked like it was very forceful, and it looked kind of scary to be honest for me. So, um, but and also like I had a lot of fears too. I'm a shy person. I don't talk a lot in public, so being here is very hard right now. Um, I think I don't know what to share in the first place. I don't know principle in the first place. But I think as the years went on, as time went on, I think the first important thing that I realized the importance of how to witness first is actually to learn more deeply about the principle. Like I think almost every day on in Czech Republic, I would kind of like take some time in the morning before greeting to kind of like study the first chapter of the principle, and that's it for like I don't know 3 months or something. And I think as I studied it, it was really I had to find my own motivation to like to share like why am I sharing these things in the first place? Like why is it important to me? So I kind of took some time to share within um, within that time and study. And I think as time went on, I think what I realized is that that deep understanding for myself and the principle. Now that I know it, now I have to share it because I had no choice. But also, it impacted me so deeply, and as I practice these principles in my own life, it's like, it's really hard not to share like these kind of things because it made me feel true happiness for once in my life, and I feel like this is something I want to continue to do. And so I feel like that's why I continue to do it for the next couple of years. And it was really challenging. Like in the moment, like I never found someone to witness to. Like I would share principle and all that stuff. They would never continue. They would come a couple times, and then yeah. So I would never have like a guest, I guess I would say, or like a spiritual child for like those first like 3 years of my life, and there was no result in my own life. But even though like there was nothing that came out from it, I feel like I was still like wanting to do it because it was something that was so deep inside me and important to me that I want to naturally share with other people. And so yeah, I think eventually it came to the point where like, I'm in carp now, and I'm starting to learn. I'm like always learning stuff as I go throughout each year. And I think that's why I continue to stay, because I felt like I was always growing in any moment through sharing my own faith and living with other people too. But it really made me understand more about like life in general, or what my life goals were and my purpose in life in general was, and kind of made me also at that point doing 3 years of witnessing, and I guess it was kind of like, I had to be convicted through to my faith at some point in my life. So yeah, I think throughout these past couple years of witnessing kind of helped do that, and eventually it came to the point where, you know, I found someone, I guess, taking care of someone in, um, where was it? Maryland. And then I don't know if you saw in the morning devotion where, um, what's his name? Carlos was on morning devotion, and he was kind of sharing like his experience um, through CARP Maryland, and he came to the 7 day, and he was also taking some responsibility. He gave a lecture on principle of creation by that time, and kind of seeing this man like grow through like the past year was really fulfilling. It was kind of like all these 3 years of witnessing. Whoa, I did nothing. I mean, I got nothing. I got nothing, and there's nothing that came about. But because I was always feeling that joy through sharing my faith, and also like that conviction that I built throughout my life, and also being able to grow my own like character and my strengths and weaknesses and all that stuff, I think I kind of felt like, this place was important, and something I should do more. And yeah, I think ultimately it gave me like really genuine happiness. So yeah, and yeah, and also like I felt like the relationships that I built were a lot more genuine and deeper and sincere as well. And so I think, yeah, that's basically my own experience in witnessing. Um, yeah, but hopefully it kind of gives you like the whole picture of why witnessing is important. That was the main topic, like why is it important to you, and personal reasons of why. Um, yeah, so hopefully if you haven't found your own personal reason, obviously it can be for God, and also for the people, like bringing them in and all that stuff, bringing new life. But I guess one question that I hope you leave off with is why witnessing could or is important to yourself. Why is it important for my own growth? Kind of reflect about that as you leave Sunday service. So yeah, so where can we start? Because I know there's a lot of moms going to OSU campus and witnessing, but also where else can we start too? Because maybe sharing principle directly isn't something that you would want to do, or is not. I mean, hopefully you could do it someday, but yeah, but where do we start? I feel like it can start anywhere, you know? It can go through your own home, um, playing. You can even go play soccer or something, and then like give them love because it's not all about principle. It can also be about like giving love, as I said before. Um, and then or like even meeting that person like in a dinner or like through a meal or a cafe. Um, yeah, there's so many different ways where we can kind of witness or share our faith with other people, and it's really nice to do that with other people too. Because I know sometimes like I would take care of my guests, I would say, but then like I wouldn't do principal all the time. I would be like taking them out to eat food, and I would pay for them. But also that time, I wouldn't talk about principal at all. I would talk about just life in general. Like, how are you doing? Like let's meet up because I want to get to know you more and stuff like that. Um, or like playing sports or even like having like potluck, Sunday potluck, inviting your friends to potluck and kind of having like this fellowship, or even youth ministry. Um, it can literally start anywhere. Um, so, yeah, don't worry. Witnessing is not just sharing principle. I feel like it's sharing your faith. So, hopefully, that will do. So I think that's basically it for my sermon. I think this is the last thing I want to leave off with. I think this is my favorite quote from now on because I found it myself from somebody. So yeah, give the ideal through your words, show the practice through your personality, and give love through your deep heart. That's it.